Oh, welcome back to a Brummie Wunders again, and today we are tackling the really cool subject, actually, of old age through the ages, which I think is going to surprise you. Actually, it's quite hard to know what end to take from this. Hang on, let's just make sure I'm still recording before I rattle on. It's looking good, brilliant. So yeah, into the slideshow. So this all started from when I went to the Reusers, which is basically a shop next to the Tip in Sutton Coldfield, where things get either I don't think they get taken from the rubbish dump, but you can choose to give these people your old stuff before you throw it in the bin, and then they'll sell it for a profit. But I think they are a charity, so that's fine, isn't it? And they're all volunteers who work there. But generally, found this book, and it was £6.50, and it was called The World of Wonders. I think it's 1867 or something daft when this one's written. But old. And it's basically like the clickbait of its time. All of these subjects in the book are fascinating, and you can just spend the whole day flicking through page by page. And it feels exactly the same as flicking through YouTube Shorts to me. It's just like everything's a bit, and that's the point, isn't it? This is a whole book based on the wonders of our world. And like when this book's published, not many people traveling, not many people seeing things. There's not many postcards yet, you know what I mean? So all of it's just fascinating. And I don't know how much of this information is now outdated or if they've proven more since. But the fact that they were written in the first place is enough for me to go, yo, interesting book. So the thing that took my interest the most, I mean, let's have a little quick look at the subjects that we will definitely be diving into in the future. But it's kind of just set out in all kinds of, yeah. So antiquarian curiosities, the invention of the arch, that's interesting, isn't it? Drafts and chess in Egypt, that's interesting. How the Order of the Horseshoe, what's all that about? Having severe colds, black rain, the mirage effect. Yeah, general like astronomical wonders there, the curious calculation of the comet passage of Earth, a ball of stars, white ants. It's all cool as hell. The Alexandrian library that was burnt down, really cool stuff. So let's have a look at the next page actually because I did do do do. There you go. Yeah, fascinating stuff. There is a copy of this online on the archives.org or something like that. So you can find all this anyway. But it's nice to own little books like this. I find it bloody interesting. And I like to think how many hands these kind of books have passed through or not. Did they just spend their whole life on a shelf in a Weatherspoons, for instance? Who knows? But there's so much information out there. If you ever spot a leather bound book with some gold writing in any pub or just library, pick it up and have a look because I mean, they were putting the effort in to make these things happen at the time. It weren't easy to make books and it weren't cheap either. So always worth a look if it was worth printing, in my opinion. But so the bit that took my interest on this front is the instances of longevity. That's the one, isn't it? The instances of longevity. Good lord, it's getting late. Anyway, so this is the guy. Interesting as hell. This is Thomas Parr, the first kind of engraving drawing of him. And this is a slightly cooler photo of him. He's got a stick now. It's pretty cool and a bit more dramatic background, which is nice. And then this is him in another drawing, which is a bit more realistic looking, I guess, but lovely beard now. So depending, the beard stays, the hairline, it comes and it goes. So I like this one. I think it looks cool as hell. So we're going to run with that. But this is where it all begins. So basically, just brace yourselves for this crazy information, because what the hell are we? Anyway, Thomas Parr, whose portrait we give, son of John Parr, born at Alberbury in the parish of Winnington in Shropshire, was born in the reign of the King Edward IV, AD 1483. At 80 years, he married his first wife Jane at 80. And in the space of 32 years, he had but two children with her, both of them short lived. The one lived for a month, but the other a few years. Being aged 120, he fell in love with Catherine Milton, by whom he had his last child, and he lived to about 152 years old. 2 months before his death, he was brought up by Thomas Earl of Arundel to Westminster, and he slept away most of this time. Change of air and diet, neither of which apparently agreed with him, added to the trouble of many spectators, are supposed to have hastened his death, which happened at the Westminster in November the 15th, 1635, and he was interred in the Abbey Church. The portrait with the inscription which we annex, this one here, sorry guys, um, is copied from a very old engraving. So I believe you can still go and see this at the Abbey in Westminster. Is that right? But who knows? It's the very old man, or Thomas Parr, the son of John Parr of Winnington, in the parish of Alberbury, in the county of Shropshire, who was born in 1483 in the reign of King Edward IV. He's now living in the Strand, being aged 152 years and odd months, 1635. So yeah, god damn. Old as hell. What happened? Is it normal that we all die at around 80 now? How long do you expect to live? Me, I'm thinking if all goes well and everything's great, 82 appears to be the family record. So if I get that far, lucky me. But it just seems like the whole life expectancy thing in the human race could have been very much manipulated. And like, what are we now? I think we're tiny, tiny versions, like borrowers compared to these long-lived people of the past. But stick with me, and then you decide if it's all absolute bollocks or not. So the next guy who's very odd, so let's just remember he was 152. That's what we're looking at. Cool. So the next one, this is Henry Jenkins. So yeah, there's a curious story told of one Henry Jenkins of the parish of Bolton in Yorkshire, being produced as the witness at the assizes there to prove the right of way over a man's ground. Now the right of way over, it's still something that's a contentious issue now, but at the time, it's all about just public rights of way through. Like even now, there was the mass trespass not too long ago. I can't remember the year itself. But yeah, it's just like everyone's public right to actually go over fields. Yeah, you can give people land and farms and places that belong to them, but you can't stop people freely walking around completely because that's just insane. So they're using this old man to prove the point that there used to be a right of way on this particular field, and only this guy's going to remember because he's old as hell. So he swore to nearly 150 years worth of memory, for at that time he said he well remembered a way over that ground, and being cautioned by the judge to beware what he swore, because there were 2 men in court, each above 80 years of age, who remembered no such way, he replied that those men were boys to him. So these 80-year-old dudes are just kids, you know what I mean, to this Henry Jenkins. Upon which the judge asked those men how old they looked Jenkins to be, and they said they didn't know, but they knew he was a very old man when they were boys. So Dr. Transit, that's 3 people kind of saying the same story here. And they said Dr. Transit Robinson adds concerning him that he would remember Henry VIII and the fight at Flodden Field, at which time he was 12 years old, and he died on the 8th of December 1670 at Ellerton upon Swale, aged 169. Now he claimed to have been born in 1501, although the parish registers were not required to write down, who's been born and all that until 1538. So who's wrong? Can he be wrong? Is he chatting? Would he be learned enough to know these rules? Who knows? But again, it's the big beards that get you through. I've just trimmed mine, so I feel a little bit silly. I'm going to die. Lovely hat too. So yeah, in the local area, in 1829, the Journal of the Mirror of Literature claimed that if Jenkins had followed his legal obligations during his life, he would have changed religion 8 times between Henry VII and Charles II. So absolutely crazy. And this is a plate which I believe in the church up in York where he came from. But blush not, marble, to rescue from oblivion the memories of Henry Jenkins, a person obscure in birth, but of life truly memorable, for he was enriched with the goods of nature, if not of fortune, and happy in the duration, if not variety, of his enjoyments. And though the partial world despised or disregarded his low and humble, what's that word? Trait? His low and humble traits, the equal eye of Providence beheld and blessed it with the patriarch's health and length of days to teach mistaken man those blessings, were in trade and temperance, or a life of labour and a mind at ease. He lived to the amazing age of 169 and was interred here on December 6th, 1670, and had justice done to his memory. 1743. So there you go. Absolutely crazy. This guy's so 169 and feeling like that's fairly normal now. That's 2 people, isn't it? With some 80-year-olds who are corroborating the information to a point. And this is old news, but hey, we got old people. How old's your oldest person in your family, or at least in your family tree? And how far back does your family tree go? Does it abruptly stop in about 1820 like everyone else? Probably. But Yeah, he had a pub named after him in the village where he died, so that's a shame, isn't it? And that's closed too. No surprises there. But the residents have spoken of their sadness after the two village pubs with hundreds of years of history between them closed down on the same day. The Galfay Inn in Galfay and the Henry Jenkins Inn in Kirkby Malzyard, both in North Yorkshire, closed on June 29th, 2008, which is a big shame, but I thought that was an interesting bit of side story there in the life of Henry Jenkins. Alrighty ho then. So the instances of longevity. This is from that book now, and he's coming out with a theory of how long things should live based on how long it takes each particular race or creature to reach full maturity in the first place. So to ascertain how long all can live, Buffon Couvert Florenz and the rest of those savants who have turned their attention to the all-important problem proceed to reason by analogy. The duration of life with the horse and other animals of the higher species is proportionate to the time expended in their growth. So man, who takes 14 years to grow, says Buffon, may live 6 or 7 times as long. The idea is doubtless correct, but Buffon's statement as to the period of growth in a man is not so. Man grows for more than 14 years. If he lived 7 times as long, the ordinary life would only be 98, which, supposing a state of perfect health, is not, even in this sophisticated age, extraordinary. Now remember that this book is actually being written in I think it's 1860s, but it might even be earlier. But they're saying then that getting to the age of 98 isn't particularly impressive. So what's changed there? Mr. Florenz has, in our opinion, improved on the working out of Buffon's idea. All the larger animals he observes live 5 times as long as the time expended to reach maturity. Let me just zoom in. No, we don't need to, do you? The camel grows for 8 years and lives for 40. The horse for 5 and lives for 25. The ox for 4 lives for 15 or 20. The lion for 4, 20. Dog, 2 years for full growth, lives to 10 or 12. And man, around 20 we're matured, so we should live for 100 or more as standard. But I think that's about right, don't we? We don't stop growing. I don't think the brain stops maturing until around 25, if I'm right. So yeah, that would push us to 125 in a normal state. So yeah, there you go. By physical analogy, therefore, the ordinary life of man should be 100 years at least. The term fixed by David's 60 years and 10 wants 30 of this. The average life of men of the upper class is 50, of tradesmen, businessmen and hard workers 55, and of the labouring classes 65, and of the factory workers 70. Man in a purely unsophisticated state is clearly fitted to live to a much greater age than he commonly attains, but nature, ever wise, shortening his existence, does not deduct from any one term, but from the whole, in nearly equal proportions. It used to be an old saying amongst brainless wits that a short life and a merry one is the life to live. Nothing can be more and absolutely untrue. A short life in their sense is scarcely a merry one, and the pace kills. If we live fast, if we exhaust ourselves in any one period, that period next succeeding is shortened. In short lives, puberty and maturity are reached early, then comes old age, and then comes the exhaustion and death. Knowing how fast these succeed each other in our manufacturing districts, how girls become women at 13, mothers at 14, and grandmothers at 30, if they attain that age, it's quite refreshing to read and believe the M. Florence scale of the development of the period of man's life. So there you go. It's just a crazy theory, but 1820s. So we've got like these. We should be living to this. It's not impressive to live, to 98. You should be getting older anyway. And they've got all this going on where people are having kids at 13. They become women at 13, mothers at 14, and then another 15 years they become grandmothers at 30. And now life starts getting whipped down because we're racing through all the stages of life. So maybe even now, the pressures of when should you have a child, when are you too old, they seem to be mostly based on the welfare of your children more than yourself. So the longer you leave it, the less likely you are to be around for the important years, or maybe it is all about just getting them to that maturity level, which was around 15, 16, say, back in the day. And once you've done that, you've done your job and you can just move on into grandmahood. But it's just mad to think that that's the state of play in the 1800s. Really like that. It was just like that whole live fast, die. Live hard, die quick. What do they say? I can't remember now. Live fast, die young. Dies slow. Can't remember. But anyway, absolute shite. Don't do that. Take your time. Chill. Keep the stress levels down. Keep the heart rate down. Because my theory is like all your bloody reptiles and your turtles and all that, all your blue-blooded stuff, they live for longer, don't they? Generally, is that how it works? So I think like if there's a study into sportsmen and people who raise their heart level way above 120 BPM all the time, say, do they die earlier? Have we got a finite amount of energy that keeps our hearts beating properly? I don't know, but I've got a really slow heartbeat, so hopefully going to be at least 169. So I just wanted to do some comparing to the nowadays and the older days. And these aren't scientifically confirmed cases, so they don't make it as far as our old Tom Parr and Henry Jenkins. They don't make it into the real lists, especially like the Guinness Book of Records and that, because they're out there. We can't confirm or deny. So, but the general idea looks like they go back as around 1875. Is that how early we make it? But these are the oldest women of all time, according to our current records, and the oldest being 122, which is bloody impressive. She died in 1997, and then the youngest of the top 10 would be 1875 to 1992, dying at 117 years in the USA, and across the world this looks possible. So it's still not bad efforts, but these people are ragged by then, and they look like leather. So obviously Jenkins has got another 50 years on some of these people, so how impressed should we be? Oldest men currently, one's still alive, born in 1909. He's 114 at the moment, and in 3 years' time, he might pass Jumon Kimura of Japan, who died at 116 years and 54 days back in 2013. And here he is, celebrating his 150th birthday. 15th birthday in 2012. It's nice. Which takes me back into early mythological kind of history and how old everything is in the Bible, say, and all these crazy old books, which I don't know if you're aware of. I wasn't aware of this until probably a few years ago. But absolutely crazy ages being built, being reached by these legends back in the day. So let's just start with the first man that we know of, Adam and Eve, that guy. Apparently in Genesis 5:5, it actually states that he died when he was 930. Did you know that? Interesting, right? And there's reasons for that. You can't expect to raise an entire species off someone who can only really expect to live to 80, and only really his missus won't even be able to have babies past 40, like according to these new times. So you have to live this long to really get the ball rolling and create a society out of two people, I guess. So Adam 930 years old, as old. And then these are the other ages in the Bible. I don't know what Masoretic and Septuagint ages are, but I guess they're just two different calendars maybe in the Bible. But Methuselah, 969, Jared, 962, Noah, 950, Adam himself, 930. Going all the way down to the youngest, Job, being 210. Salah, Canaan, 438. So everyone really, really old. Did you know? Did you know? And a little bit here about after the flood, like the flood that Noah had to get us through, the average human lifespan began to shrink drastically. The post-flood patriarchs from Noah's son Shem, who died at 600, to Peleg, who died at 239, lived an average age of 435 years. By Abraham's time, humans were living less than 200 years, and in the days of Moses, who was considered very old when he died at 120, the average age was only 70 or 80. The years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength, 80, and that's in Psalms 90:10 ESV, whatever that means, but there you go. So there's been some crazy stuff. One moment, I need a wee. Okay, I'm back from my wee. So yeah, I wanted to dive into other religions then, because again, the ages are absolutely mental half the time. So we've got Buddhism, where the Vipassy, the 22nd of the 28 Buddhas, lived for about 80,000 to 100,000 years. In Vipassy's time, the longevity of humans was 84,000 years. Tanhankara, the first Buddha, lived for about 100,000 years. Wow, The Hinduisms, the Hindu god Rama is said to have ruled his kingdom Ayodhya for 11,000 years by the time he died, according to the Ramayana. Rama's father, Dasharatha, yeah, lived for more than 60,000 years, according to the Ramayana. And Bhagarifa did tapas for 1,000 Deva or God years. Wow, bloody hell. 360,000 years in human years. To please Ganga, or Ganja, I don't know, to gain the release of his 60,000 great uncles from the curse of Saint Kapila. So Bhagirfa lived for more than 360,000 years. These are crazy now, like, and this just means, I mean, in my head, this just means how we count things has changed. But how do you get so out of whack that we're miscounting 360,000 years? Or did we just live that long? I don't know. I am 31. So Jainism. Extreme lifespans are ascribed to, well, did you spell that one? Tirthankaras, for instance. Neminatha was said to have lived for over 10,000 years before his ascension. Naminatha was said to be 20,000 years before his ascension. Munisarata was said to have lived over 30,000 years. And Malanatha was said to have lived over 56,000 years. So crazy, but got nothing on those Buddhists, have you? Nothing. Then China down here. Let's just zoom in a little bit for you. Fuxi was supposed to have lived 197. Lucian wrote about the Seres, a Chinese people, claiming they lived for over 300 years. Zuo Si said who lived during the Three Kingdoms period, was said to have lived for 300 years. In Chinese legend, Peng Zhu was believed to have lived over 800 years during the Yin dynasty, 16th to 11th centuries BC. Emperors in the whole, is this still China? The Yellow Emperor was said to have lived 113 years. Emperor Yao was supposed to have lived 118 years. And Emperor Shun was said to have lived 110. Getting a bit more normal there. And that's the one that needs citation. God damn. And then the Egyptian historian Manetho, drawing upon earlier sources, begins his Egyptian king list with the Greco-Egyptian god Hephaestus. Who was king for 9,000 years. So yeah, man, absolutely mental stuff. Like, how old are we supposed to live? Aren't we a tiny microbe of what we used to be? And like, I'm not even saying physically, but like the Nephilim and the giants back in the day are in the books. Not sure what that means. The kind of fallen children of God mating with the humans, and then life expectancy and new blood types. We'll go into that in another one, but good lord, old. Zoom back out. And on to the next one. So problems in documenting. This is just generally in the eyes of the Guinness World Records book. They said that this girl called Lucy Hannah was supposed to have reached an age of 117, had her verification removed in 2020 following discovery of additional documents. And the Guinness Book of Records are quoted as saying, "No single subject is more obscured by vanity, deceit, falsehood, and deliberate fraud than the extremes of human longevity." There you go. And just to leave it for me, I'm like, maybe the world moved closer or sped up from the sun, or however we're doing it, because, you know, our days and hours are only kind of made up on how fast our world spins around or how far we go around the sun or anything like that. So just comparing day lengths on Mercury, which I believe is the closest to the sun compared to ours, a day length actually takes 58 Earth days because it's not spinning that fast. So God, the theory didn't work, but a year length is only 888 days, and that's the time it takes it to go around the sun, not to spin around. So where do you start? I hope that's scratched your head a little bit. We have been old in the past, or have we? What are your views? Jump in the comments and let me know if you reckon it's all bollocks, or if you think, yeah, man, we've been done over here. Why's Grandad dying at 80? Wow, I've been a Brummie Wunders. Thanks for joining. That was interesting, and we'll pick out some more stuff from this book because there's loads of fascinating little subjects in there which I doubt you've heard much about before. So thank you very much. I've been a Brummie Wunders. Have a good one, and ta-ta.